campaign for the general that they're willing to own up to mistakes and learn and grow from them.
This is the biggest mea culpa that I've seen the campaign get at any point during this campaign. There was a small moment 6 or 7 months ago when an intern, they said, tweeted something that caused some controversy, and that intern apologized. But not at the scale of this mea culpa that we're getting from a Trump Corporation staff writer. You alluded to this with Chuck, but let's just lay out the timeline. Melania gives her speech after 10 o'clock on Monday night, ends her speech, gets rave reviews. About an hour later, somebody on Twitter notices that there were striking similarities to Michelle Obama's speech from 2008. In the middle of the night, Paul Manafort and Jason Miller, the campaign spokesman, came out with a statement pushing back on the idea that it was plagiarism, saying that these were Melania's words, that she wrote the speech. The next morning, Paul Manafort goes on all the morning shows to say again that Melania did not plagiarize that speech, that the media was overhyping this, that Hillary Clinton was responsible for putting this message out there, this plagiarism message, and that it was not true. During the day, another surrogate of Donald Trump's, Barry Bennett, said the campaign needs to find the staffer that did this and fire that staffer. Sean Spicer from the RNC says it's not plagiarism. Donald Trump Jr. says basically mistakes happen. The message has been all over the map on this. And then finally today, what we're hearing is that this was in fact plagiarism, and Meredith McIver has come out, a staff writer at the Trump Organization, and said that she made the mistake. She fell on her sword here, offered her resignation, saying that Melania told her about speeches that she liked from Michelle Obama, and instead of checking to make sure that she wasn't using those speeches word for word, she just listened to Obama and wrote this speech. Donald Trump did not accept her resignation, instead maintaining that idea that he is loyal to staffers. There is some contribution questions here, whether or not this is an in-kind contribution, having a Trump Corporation staffer write a political speech, and whether that violates FEC rules. Right now, NBC News is trying to get to the bottom of that. But again, it is another controversy that the Trump campaign should not be dealing with on day 3 of the convention, when all of the news should be about Donald Trump officially becoming the Republican nominee. Thomas.
Katie Tur reporting where the rally will take place between the GOP nominee in Donald Trump and his VP selection in Mike Pence. Katie, thanks so much. I want to go to our colleague Chris Jancy inside the queue. And Chris, I think it was in the last hour that the RNC chair, Reince Priebus, breezed by but didn't take a moment to talk about this latest development.
Look, there's a lot of frustration in the Republican Party as they watch what this has done to this convention. That should have been a great moment for Melania Trump. They had a better night last night. All of this should have been building to tonight and tomorrow night. You have your nominee and your vice presidential nominee. They have this huge stage, millions of people watching, and instead they are being distracted by this, and so are viewers, so are readers. This is the first chance tonight that most of America, for example, is going to be introduced to Mike Pence. So, we heard yesterday morning, Reince Priebus, the head of the RNC, who said, look, he is definitely in the camp that, whoever was responsible for this should have been considered to be fired. He thought it was going to go away. It was going to die by the afternoon. But here we have another whole 24 hours. We're still talking about it. We're talking about it in what should be the lead up to tonight. They should be talking about Eric Trump's speech, talking about Mike Pence's speech, even talking about the preparations that Donald Trump is undergoing, that he's coming out on stage tonight. But instead, you have them focusing on this. So you lose on two fronts. You lose on the front of building momentum, and you lose on the front of this being a distraction from people who ought to be concentrating on this, voters who should be concentrating on this. Remember, Thomas, the people inside this hall, they are, at least to some large extent, preaching to the converted. There's a whole huge audience out there, people who are considering who to vote for in November. They're getting a huge introduction over the course of this convention to who these people are and what this campaign is all about. And so far, it's been about this plagiarism controversy and mixed messages from a campaign from a guy who says he's great at managing. Thomas?
And we know this party is just at halftime, Chris, with day 3 about to kick off. We're watching on the right-hand side of our screen the Trump family at the rally with Indiana Governor Mike Pence. He was just in the frame a second ago, but you see Ivanka Trump there, Eric there, also Don Jr. With their spouses, and we saw Congressman Steve King on site too. This rally kicking off within the hour. The Trump plane had just arrived at the top of the hour, but I want to talk about what this means as we are in the middle of the RNC in Cleveland and still talking about unification. Joining me is Arizona's former Republican governor, Jan Brewer, who was an early supporter of Donald Trump, and you've got some supporters right behind us, some fans that are yelling out to you. What do you make of this admission, the fact that, yes, a staffer and aide to Melania Trump did basically plagiarize the speech of Michelle Obama from 2008?
Well, it's absolutely wrong, and it should have never taken place. The bottom, in my opinion, I said it early this morning when I first heard the breaking news that whoever wrote the speech, it was a staffer. Obviously, they ought to stand up, they ought to take the bullet and make a resignation. So she did the right thing, and now it's up to the campaign to decide to do with her what they wish. If they determine that they want to keep her, that's fine. She needs to be held responsible to put the next first lady of the country in a bad situation.
I'm going to give this microphone because I think we're getting a little drowned out by the folks behind us, Governor. But when it comes to the campaign being unorganized, or people, as Chris Jansen pointed out, inside the convention hall, except for some anti-Trump folks that you have said you want them to get over it, there are people at home that are undecided. And for folks that are trying to see this as an organized campaign that is worthy of the White House, is this a sign, not just the mix-up, but the fact that they're willing to admit a mistake and say, you know what, we made a mistake, we got to learn from it, but the fact that they're willing to do that, we haven't seen that much from this campaign.
Well, I believe anybody that is an elected official or anybody that has any kind of staff, if their staffer makes a mistake, they have the responsibility, like I said, to use the term, they need to stand up and take that bullet and face the consequences. And that's what happened. It's not the first time somebody has plagiarized something, but you hate to see it happen in your campaign, but you don't know this is going to happen. It was embarrassing, of course, but I wouldn't blame the campaign for it. I would blame the person who did it.
Do you think that this gives fuel to the fire of anti-Trump folks that are part of the conservative movement that say, you know what, maybe this is something that's indicative of this campaign and Donald Trump not ready for prime time?
No, I think that, the only way that it'll carry on is, it's not going to get any more legs. I mean, she stood up and she took responsibility for it, and we will move on. And the campaign is growing, and we are gaining momentum like crazy here. We had distractors that tried to disrupt the first day, and now they're kind of all gone away, and we got the nominees out of the way, and now it's unity, unity, unity. And when we leave here and go back, we got our game face on, and it's game on.